right, maybe this will work now. Hello, Cameron. Welcome back. Maybe we'll get back up and running here. There we go. We back. We back. Absolutely. I'm telling you, I got my data back. That's the good news. I don't have to run on the stupid Wi-Fi. That's the good news. So hopefully this data will carry us over and we'll be fine. Hopefully it shall. We shall see. We shall see. Here again. All right. Let's see if this will hold out for us. Maybe. Just maybe. It will. Hoosier, what's up? Oh, I did actually. So I finally got my data back for those joining in. But I saw your comment about Mephibosheth. Was he the son of Jonathan or was he the son of Saul? Literally, I was thinking he might have been grandson of Saul via Jonathan. I know the text sometimes says son of Saul. But I'll take some correction if I need it. Anyways, I don't know where I left off. Y'all have to tell me where I left off. What's the last thing you heard me say? Bam. It was you, Hall. Absolutely. The son of Saul came down to meet the king. He had neither taken care of his feet, trimmed his beard, and washed his clothes. Interesting. Yeah, I did see that. I did see that. Was he I'm trying to think. I can't remember if he was... I was thinking he was the son of Jonathan, but maybe not. I know he was kind of a... I'm trying to think. I was thinking there was another text that might have clarified it, but yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Last thing you said was end all in all over again. Oh boy. Yeah, it's like, what do you need? So you need some stone. You need a hammer of some kind. And then just a normal nail. You could shove it into a piece of wood if you want to. But doesn't take too awful much. But eventually, if you end up liking the hobby, you can buy some better tools online. Plenty of good options that you can seek out. I might have to do a Google search afterward, which is awful to say. Well, maybe not a Google search. I'll have to do a deep dive. I want to, because I can't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. I was thinking Mephibosheth was a grandson, but I am not infallible. Invested a mic, it's bigger mic. Oh, Marty is here. By the way, Marty, did you end up selling your points from the other day? I was curious about that. Because if not, y'all need to get over there on them. This was probably, goodness, I don't know how many days. It was a few days, a couple days. Yeah, Marty was offering some points. They look pretty pretty good. Just saying. Get that little tidbit there. Let's see. There we go. Let's see. Let me tell you, raw church is not fun. The pressure plate. Goodness. I'm gonna sharpen it up now. Yeah, Marty, did you sell your doings? Yes. Oh, good. How much did you sell them for? I'm curious. Do you have a weapon making license? In fact, I do. You're right. He was a grandson of Saul. Let me scroll back. I just remember that verse and got mistaken. Oh man. Okay, good. I'm glad. Glad you found it. I got scared for a second. I'm like, oh no, wait. But that's all right. That is okay. I remembered it because there's some other example I want to say, Hoosier, that can't remember if it was. I mean, obviously you have like Father Abraham, like he's your father, but I am your father. Anyways, but no, there was oh goodness, I think there was another example. It might have been with it was recent in 2 Samuel. I bet you it was one of the priests or something. It was like and First Chronicles made it clear that it was a grandfather. I always remembered that. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. But I'm not infallible, so thank you for holding my feet to the fire on that one. Because, yeah, sometimes my mind cannot remember things. Like, I can't remember that dude whose name starts with a B. It's terrible. Terrible. Marty, Nathan Thursday. What that means? Dockenstein bought them for $50. Alrighty. Big kudos to Mr. Dockenstein. I was hoping somebody would get them. They look pretty cool. I thought they were neato. Thought they looked pretty cool. All right, let's put another notch in this thing. Let's see, or another stem. Thingy-mabobber. Anyways, how was church for you guys? Who went to church tonight? How'd it go? Oh yeah, we're back, Tommy. You best believe. We're absolutely back. Barzillai, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I never knew how to pronounce it. Barzillai. I never got to that in my Hebrew studies. But obviously Bar Jonah. So Zillah or Zilai. Interesting. This is church. Well, it's certainly a religious discussion. But of course, definition of church, I'd have to disagree a little bit. But I think the common phrase is, I got me and my Bible and I'm good to go. Well, we're kind of subject to our local elders. Maybe your congregation calls them pastors or shepherds or overseers or presbyters or bishops. Same doings. Unless it's a Catholic bishop, that's a different doolally. But, yeah, one of those things. But, yeah, I do enjoy these conversations, Mike. I thoroughly do. Thoroughly do. You got any obsidian? I do. Right over yonder, which I don't feel like grabbing, but I do have it. Yes. Whoa! Levi donates $5. No way. Levi Hosea. Oh man, you didn't put a comment. Oh, you put Haya. Oh well, thank you for that. That's very kind of you. Now, what was that one, Mike? Let me see. Church in the dirt. Interesting. Wherever you split a piece of wood, he's there. Wherever you turn a stone, he's there. Just a few gathered in his name is there. Interesting. 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 I've often seen those. Photos of people being out fishing. By the way, I love fishing. They'll say, "This is my church. This is where I'm close to God." And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I mean, it is very peaceful out there. Don't get me wrong. But let me tell you, you could have done it any other hour of the week. Other than, but no, man, that's just, anything to get you away, I reckon. But it's all right. He is a fisher of men. That's right. Also, it's hard to fulfill one of those one another commands. It's hard to fulfill a one another command when you're not with one another. Oh, it's hard. Let me see what you wrote. Let's see. But I attempted to quote there despite speech to text like I'm blue to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't read all the Dead Sea Scrolls, especially since it's it's a different language. But I know they have the whole scroll of Isaiah. They have various parts and fragments found in multiple caves. I don't know where that specific quote would be, Mike, but I'm sure that wasn't. I'm sure it was taken in a symbolic way. You look under a rock, or you look, he's everywhere in that sense. Yeah. Hoosier, no way. Oh man, dude, you don't have to do that. But thank you. Here's a philosophical question for you, Jake. Your thoughts on taking a life in order to protect yourself or others. Turn the other cheek, or sell your garments and buy a sword. Great question. And because you preemptively said, here's a philosophical question, I feel morally obligated to walk everybody through this, Hoosier. So thanks for the donation, man. That's very kind of you. Very kind of you. All right. I have a nuanced reply. So you want to turn this down, represent the building, the charge takes a few guys. All right, I'll look into that, Mike. Yeah, that's interesting, because as well as the where two or more are gathered, there's a different context there as well than most people would assume. But I'll try to answer everybody's, but I got to answer Hoosier's. Okay, a philosophical question. All right, here we go. Your thoughts on taking a life in order to protect yourself or others. Turn the other cheek, or sell your garments and buy a sword. Let I guess, begin by stating a fact. And that fact can be taken or it can just be dismissed, but it is a fact nonetheless that there were many disciples of Christ throughout history, especially in early Christian history, that were ambitious in their desire to offer their life on a flaming stick to the glory of God. Let me just say that. All right. Now, does that answer the question? I don't think so. I said it was nuanced. It's nuanced in many ways, but let's start with this one. The danger, I guess if we just take America for starters, the danger is different every day. I mean, we got guns now. Well, people with guns. Let me emphasize that. Different weaponry where, it's not like nowhere where you're at is safe. Like, if I go to New York, which I never have, thank goodness. If you live there, I feel sorry for you. And you go on the subway, that's dangerous, man. Like you're risking your life in a real tangible way. By the way, if you got comments down below, I'll get to them. I'll scroll down there eventually. Just bear with me here. So there's danger all around. All right. Let's say that there's imminent danger. I got two scenarios. The first one is one that my dad was posed. He may be on the stream, actually, so he can verify the truth of what I'm saying. There's a guy named Basil Barrett Baxter who was a teacher, and one of the last classes he offered before he quit or resigned, or whether Dad, one of the last classes Dad had, Dad shared a story with me, and he said, well, case was presented in like the last day of class or something, that what would happen if an intruder broke into your house with a gun or with a poo-poo, because I don't want to get banned on this thing. What do you do? There's a guy there with a pew-pew, and he's trying to rob you, whatever. What do you do? Now, the natural response is protect, right? Protect. Got to protect yourself. And the nuance lies in, do you have family? Are there others under your care? If so, there's valid justification. Is there valid justification for it being just yourself? I would say yes. But let me throw this wrench in there. What happens when you, in your self-defense, draw the pew-pew and take the LIFE of the one who broke in the house? What happens is you remain alive. You could say that you have a greater influence predicated on that. You don't know that. Likely, you would have a great influence from that point onward, and you could impact from a Christian perspective, if you are a Christian. That's another nuance. But at the end of the class, Dad made it known that Batzel offered and said that he would not draw the weapon. And the justification for why he said that was, if I recall correctly, I know where I'm going. But there's somebody in front of me who still has an opportunity to change. And if I take his life now, there in all likelihood would be no opportunity for repentance in this life. And therefore, deem it necessary, or at least at the very bare minimum justified, to say it's okay not to self. That doesn't mean it's justified in every case. You have to sit there idly by. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to make a point here. Now I'll scroll down here. To reiterate his question, there's a philosophical question. Your thoughts on taking a life in order to protect yourself or others. I think it is incumbent upon us to be willing to protect one another at the bare minimum, at a moral level. At a moral level, because life is sacred, given by God, and given for the sake of honoring and glorifying Him. I think the common passage that you're alluding to is from Luke. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Luke, where it says that Simon Peter, of course, drew his sword and took the ear off of Malchus. And the idea is, well, if he had it, then absolutely we all can. I don't think that's what's to be made of that text, but it's quite obvious and clear he had it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that he had it. The problem with what he was trying to do is that it's thwarting the will of God in the offering of His only begotten Son. And it was an act of vengeance on behalf of man rather than letting God have His way. All in all, to answer the question, taking a life in order to protect yourself or others is nuanced, in that there are cases where I believe it is okay to say, I care about his soul so much that if it be just me, I'll try to work through it in every possible scenario. However, I do believe that self-defense, if someone is causing you harm, that you have the constitutional right, obviously. The question is, I guess, is it a moral right? I would say, based on the fact that objective morality is true, and that's predicated on the existence of God in my worldview, because life is sacred, we have a duty and responsibility to honor, respect, revere that which is sacred, that which God has created, and to do within our own means to provide for the safety of those oppressed. I think that's a narrative we find throughout the Old Testament of, over 400 years of oppression in Egypt. And in Exodus 2, it said God heard, He listened, He cared for His people. Towards the end of the chapter, this desire to relinquish oppression. Through the book of Judges, you have, and they sinned again, and they sinned again, and they sinned again. But God would send the deliverer from the oppression that came. And the ultimate sense of that is Christ Jesus Himself to deliver us. I believe that the martyrs were justified in what they decided to do. That doesn't mean that they're a standard for everybody. I kind of think the opposite of that is also true. Now, the passage you mentioned, turn the other cheek, I think you're exactly right. Vengeance is the Lord's, the book of Romans says. It's a quote from the prophets. And we have to allow vengeance to be the Lord's. We're not to get our get back, so to speak, in this life. If God allows for that in the scope of the free will agency of mankind, I think he's free to do that and allow for a judgment to take place, but the ultimate judgment will be eternally if they do not repent. Turn the other cheek, absolutely. Be willing to turn the other cheek, but at the point of death, um, where it's, you die, you know, I believe in a moral responsibility to the sanctity of life. And I think in that scenario, turn the other cheek would be implicatory of somebody who's being angry at you, forcing you to do, walk the extra mile, so to speak. Uh, but if somebody's like, you know, let's just say, I think you understand this motion here. You're not going to turn the other cheek and say, do it again, like I did with my dad when I was a kid. Do it again, Daddy, do it again. I don't think that's the implication. Um, or sell your garments and buy a sword. I think that is, uh, whether it be a sword, whether it be whatever, today we have different means. It is morally okay to protect yourself. But I think that's also something that you have to go into every scenario thinking, what will I do if it's just me? What will I do if family's around? What will I do if other people are harmed? Or is death even in the cards? So my answer to taking a life to protect yourself or others, I believe, number one, God knows the intents of the heart. I think that's important to mention. And number two, it is justified, given that be an actual reality, because a lot of times it's just, oh, well, he tried to, so valid. And, you know, and there's a lot of other nuances that go into it. Well, what's the cost? Well, the cost really doesn't matter. Or were there witnesses that can testify to self-defense? Well, it's not necessarily important if you're talking about doing that which is right. I would say that there's a just cause to do so based on morality standards. But that in the case where you recognize that there's a soul and it's just me and I'm responsible, well, not moral, but responsible for just me, myself, and I can make the decision in the moment, and go off of that. That would be my initial thoughts. But it's a really good, interesting question. And maybe you have a whole different idea or line of thinking. But talk about those lost. And not need to waste our time on some. Yeah, actually, it absolutely does. And I think that has to be coupled with, or in other words, there's somebody who I've been chatting with for a long time, and I teach the truth to him, but he's kind of on the spectrum. And so I have some grace there, but I do believe that there is a principle laid in stone that you can spend your time with one person your entire life, or you can spend your time with 100 people your entire life. And you can't force or coerce somebody to believe the gospel. You can only share it. But I think that there's biblical principles, yes, but just from a logical standpoint, philosophical standpoint, which is basically just mere logic alone, which obviously can't reason through everything, like faith, for instance. That yes, just from a logical standpoint, you can beat a dead horse. You can talk to somebody that's going one ear out the other, but there's just no benefit or advantage to doing that, other than going to other people. I would agree. Let's see. Live by the sword. Okay, there's a caveat there. Let me see. Live by the sword, die by the sword, meaning criminals who want to use force to get their way, whereas you sell your garment and buy a sword. Question. Who carries the money purse? Funny enough, I'll have to look back into that story, that narrative there, Hoosier. Careful, the person who carries the purse. Children, still taking a few. often struggle with it. See, so that's a whole nother caveat. I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll address that. Yeah, he may be watching actually. I think that's okay. I won't mention his name. There's somebody who attends where we're at, and that's one of the things that we had discussed, a few years ago. Is what do we make of becoming a Christian with the knowledge of the fact that I'm going to have to go to war, and that there are individuals that that I will have to or have killed for the sake of the country. That's one of the main reasons why I did not join, is because of that difficulty. I had every opportunity to join, but chose not to. But that does not mean that at this point in life, I believe that it's a necessary sin for a number of reasons. It's not something I've deeply studied, Hoosier, so I may not be the one to go to. But I will say this, that at the end of the day, bloodshed is bloodshed. Bloodshed is bloodshed. You have countries who seek to defend themselves, and that is okay for the cause of defense. I think that whenever my views as a Christian disalign with the benefit of the defense of the country, then I would be obligated to say, this is not something I align with morally and doctrinally, and I'd feel more comfortable opting out of this particular warfare or set. But I think the argument tends to go, Hoosier, that, well, Joshua, when he took over the land, one of the causes for that fact is that they were immoral, godless people. And so there is a judgment that impacts them, on the earth before they die, inflicted by God for the punishment or judgment of a particular godless nation. Now, what Joshua and his company did were just, because that's directly by God. Does that lay out a principle for us? In part, but not in whole. Although the question of, whether you should go to war or not and do this to people that you've never known or seen is very difficult and challenging, and one that a person needs to wrestle with and question. It's also incumbent upon you to obey your leaders, but then again, one might say, well, that's thrown out of the window for sake of the fact that you're absolutely doing something immoral, just as if your mom and dad as a child tells you to do something that, not that you just don't agree with, but something that is absolutely wrong, well, we're not to do it. It's difficult, I would say, personally. We're from I'm trying to stick to philosophical standards here. It's not something I've worked through personally, deeply, but that at the present moment, past is past. That's just a fact. If you go back into warfare or fighting, military or whatever branch or thing that you're doing, do I align with the mission of the country, and does it align with my morals? Is it inherently wrong to be a member of the military, I guess, is a secondary question. or the primary question behind it all. There are a lot of, if it really hurts somebody's soul, I would say try to be a part of it where you aren't on the front lines per se. In other words, you're doing, intelligence or other things. But I don't have a good question. Maybe I should. I feel like I should. Please, Hoosier, you'll have to forgive me. But at the moment, because it is definitionally at the defense of our country, there is a justification that can be offered due to the fact that it is for the protection of our people. And that although it be difficult and hard, it would be necessary for the sake of others, from other countries, protecting them from terrible regimes. You could add the fact of it being God's judgment upon them. But all in all, one would have to also say, does this completely go against my conscience? If so, if you be a Christian, then I would even it in tough, circumstances, try to mosey my way out of it at some point in time. But at this point in time, I believe it's okay. But it's not something I've studied deeply. Yeah, that's the big question, Hoosier. It's not just something of, the country says it. Do I subscribe to the fact that it is in the cases to which I'm serving? There are ways that we can defend our country that aren't in that kind of means or ways. I, at this present moment, am offering you my belief that it is okay, given the fact that, number one, it doesn't bear tangibly or heavily upon your conscience as a sinful act, which is obviously a given, like in any scenario. Number two, that it actually is for the defense of the country, which is a legitimate claim, although that would honestly depend politically where you stand as well to answer that question. And number three, by what means, you have to answer the question, by what means does God carry about his purposes? Like the destruction of the temple in 70 AD was done via the Romans upon the Jews. God, now that's a whole different discussion. There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff on that, but God has used immoral people to bring about judgment upon ungodly nations. And God has used godly people to bring about judgment on ungodly nations. The question is, does that characterize me in the position of taking vengeance where vengeance is the Lord's? Well, God carries about his vengeance through his own means, not through our own scheming. There's a bunch of different illustrations of that. But I think you shouldn't be bloodthirsty. There's a caveat. You shouldn't be angry or hostile if it be in self-defense. You should recognize that people are souls to whom lives you're taking. Yet recognize also that the people that I'm saving or in other words, wrestle with the question of if I'm taking the life of a soul and I know it. Yet they are damaging, harming, inflicting suffering and pain and vengeance and death upon a people. Am I justified in doing so? And I would say the answer is yes. But that also comes at the expense of possibly, and there's stories of this, harming people who are innocent along the way. And that can weigh heavy upon people's heart and soul. I think at the end of the day, you have to be willing to pray to God and say, Lord, this is difficult. I acknowledge the difficulty. Forgive me in my ignorance, if there be any. And may I honor you and glorify you by, number one, following the commands of which I'm entrusted with. And number two, in my ignorance, may you be glorified and honored. Be willing to pray to God through that. Let's see, people. Not murder. There is indeed a difference, Mike. Yeah, you're right. Chisel, steel nail. Yeah, steel nail. Let's get that palm pad from my buddy Mike Tufts. I got it from Mike Tufts. Oh man, dude. Tommy Anderson sent 5. Oh man. Sent 5. Yeah, Hoosier. Yeah, man. And obviously we chat all the time, but that's something I haven't studied deeply. I will preface that, but I think those are a few caveats to maybe consider. Few caveats. I think it has to be predicated on a firm prayer life with God, a recognition that certainly we aren't perfect, and that, Lord, I recognize what I'm doing is difficult, but Lord, know my heart that I'm seeking to do that which is right for my country. Third, recognize that what you're doing isn't a sin according to your conscience. And a couple other things I mentioned. Yeah, we can chat about it offline. Sounds like a plan. Maybe you can help me out on it too. As you can tell, I'm just a young fella. I don't have everything figured out. By the way, it's been a debate like that for a long time. And I know good people on both sides of the argument there. But I'm not familiar with all the debate positions per se. Anyways, what other questions we get? I think that was a good one. Let's see. Sorry that I'm gonna decide. I got you. Oh, I got you, Mike. No problem. So war killing is not a good thing for any reason. I guess it depends on the killing, because that sounds so bad. Cause you could classify like somebody who's, dead brained. They've been dead brained for 5 years. Do you pull the plug or not? And is that a killing? Technically, but does it fit the definition of murder? You're wrong, but you can share. Oh, you're talking about. Oh, goodness gracious. Y'all are a hoot. A hoot and a holler is what they say. A hoot and a holler. A hoot and a holler. All debates aside, we should always keep conversing with God in our minds. I had a philosophical point on that, but I'm gonna hush my mouth. You're exactly right. Yeah. Hacksaw phenomenal movie. Oh, I haven't watched that one. Plug is not or is following their wishes these days, but killing an unborn child. Oh yeah. I mean, obviously I'd agree there. It like the stipulation if it be murder. If you're talking about murder. But yeah, I was talking about the following their wishes. That's more, well, like in the case where they don't offer a will on the scenario, and you have to ask the family, hey, like he's just not, it's not looking good. Yeah, we can keep him, but I mean, it'd be $100,000, and he's not. It's like not, it's just not. Technically, that is a pulling of the plug, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Didn't have any. It's that simple for me. That's really tough stuff. And that statement alone, I mean, doesn't mean anything, but let me go back. Let me see. Respect life. It's precious and fleeting if someone isn't respectful of your life. Wait, let me reread that. It is precious, and if someone isn't respectful of your life, assume they mean to murder, then try to walk back. Maybe. Let's see. It's probably yeah. The shepherd pulling the lamb, teeth of the lion. The old shepherd. What a great chief shepherd we have. Oh man. Oh, good. I'm really sorry to hear that, Ed. 10 years? Oh man. Oh man. Oh, that's tough. Using to make the arrowheads. Good question. A little piece of steel, a little pad with wood on the back, and some rubber or neoprene, and some leather pads. And that's about it. That's about it. That's all we got. Oh goodness, I'm going slow tonight, you guys. Slow. Anyways, yeah, that. Oh man, let me get that. I gotta grab that. Hold on. By the way, fantastic questions. I'll say that number one. Let me just quit the numbers. I'm no genius. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but or in other words, I'm not your pastor. I'm not your elder. In fact, I'm not a pastor and I'm not an elder. I am just a member of the church. So, take what I say with, or in other words, open your Bible if you're gonna believe what I say. So who's ready for? Oh, nobody. Literally nobody. I don't know when it starts. I don't want to know when it starts. I hope that it never starts. I'm gonna cancel my ESPN subscription before it starts. I'm going to probably be flint knapping during the event, and then sell the most amazing, awesome $100,000 point for $2, and then late in the evening, laugh at the fact that Hoosier said, "Oh, I missed the chim. What I miss?" And he'll know exactly what he missed. I'm going to turn my TV off. I'm going to go explore nature that week, that day, whenever that day is. I have no idea when that day is. Zero clue. And actually might watch the game first. Oh, really? You rascal. Oh, goodness. Mason, I second what Mason said. No one wants to watch that game. Whippersnapper Jake. That would have been a spirit tip, or I have no idea. But it is a good question. It's, they make these more so for blades than anything. Thumper Jake. Whippersnapper Napper Jake. Bit more. Hey, I tell you what, if the Hoosiers put a whipping on them, that'll make Alabama at least a little bit better in my eyes. So go. I hope y'all win by 100. I'll put it that way. Either win by 100 or lose by 100, but don't be winning by like 3 points. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay. I will take a W. I will be happy if they win by a ton or lose by a ton. Just give me one or the other. Don't make it a close game, please. I guess I would prefer if they win, like I said, because that would make Alabama a little bit better in my eyes. But just yeah, believe it or not, they do have a team. I know you don't know that, and you're unaware of that very fact. But believe it or not, they're one of the older football teams that's been around. It's been around forever. And believe it or not, they have like 4, how many times more championships than the Hoosiers? In fact, I don't know. I don't recall if the Hoosiers happened. I don't recall. Oh, man. Do they? Is it maybe one? Or is it none? It's either one or none. One or the other. But, yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. What can I say? TV sports are rigged. Honestly, I think that there are things behind the scenes in a way, like, or in other words, the media can get to people's heads these days. Money can get to people's heads these days. But at the end of the day, I think they're just guys going out there trying to play their best. Some of them look like a fool. And, I think they're doing their best. You can maybe make an argument these days with some of the NBA teams, maybe NFL, but it's kind of a stretch. It's kind of a funny thing though, because like it's not really, but kind of, but you kind of wonder. It's like, okay, they kicked a field goal with 2 seconds on the clock, but they're down by 15. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Interesting. So there may be some like I don't know, but then again, you get caught, you're done. You're toast. It's over. Good luck. Be seeing you. Which team is playing this year? This year? Well, I know Miami. Is it Miami's. I don't know who the other team's playing. Who they're playing? I don't know. I don't think I ever heard of the team that they're playing in the Natty. I'm not sure. I have no clue. I don't know. I think they tried to copy Alabama's colors. I know that much. I know that they stole one of our guys under Nick Saban as a coach. That's for sure. Not bad. Yeah. Well, the coach came from Bama, so get wrecked. Get wrecked. Well, he was a coach at Bama. Not a head coach, obviously. Obviously. He wasn't good enough to be a head coach. You missed everything, Corbin. Arkansas? Man, I kind of pull for Arkansas because I feel bad for them. Every year I hear them squealing. Squeak. Oh, that was a terrible squeak noise. Because they keep losing. I want them to win. I want them to do fine. And their coach, I think he's still there. Maybe he got fired. I don't know. But he seems like a humble guy. Well, he seems nice. Sport are we talking about? A little bit of everything. Mostly football, but college football. They talked to somebody that's a wrestler for show. These guys are crazy. Palm and oh goodness. You know what? See these. I hear you over there, Marshall. I hear you over there. I'm talking to you. He's had 0 penalties to the last play and got called for an offsides. Oof. How about no, Polybius? How about no? How about I've never heard of them. North Stars? Pulled a clip up for a dude I work with. That was brutal. What do you say? Go down his play. Oh boy. Vikings won the Super Bowl. Oh boy. Hurts you. Oh no. I'm sorry. I know. What are they like? Maroon and gold colors or something? Surely their mascot isn't North Stars, though, is it? I don't know what they are. College football, right? The North Stars, are they a Christian university, or is this just like, I'm curious. They're now the Dallas Stars. See, yeah, I knew it, yeah. Oh, okay. I was like, well, yeah, you are from Texas. I was like, what in the world? Okay. The star, okay, stars, okay, I gotcha. That makes sense. That does make sense. All right, got to go back down the line there. And draw the line. Now the good news is I'm already sending one of these to Hoosier, so he's not gonna want to buy it tonight. So I think that's off your plates. Early days, Oiler games are cool. North Stars. Oh, okay. So we're gonna win. Interesting. All right. I need to finish this up. The base isn't right just yet, so I gotta work on that too. By the way, huge thank you to those who donated. I do appreciate that. Lions fan. Ah, a Lions. Is it because the Lions held up on Mr. Daniel? Is it because you follow the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Is it because you like their mane? Is it because they look scary? I actually followed Jeff Gordon for a while, the NASCAR driver, because I thought his car looked pretty cool and scary looking with the flames on it. Whoops. I was like, man, that's cool. Jeff Gordon was the guy. How's it going, Grim? Welcome in. Gulf Coast, you okay? Guess we'll get there someday. What's crazy is we almost didn't have a stream tonight. We were super close. But luckily, the data came back. Oh, wow. Oh, that's neat. Old Jeffro. The gourd. The Gordon. And then he had a dumb DuPont looking car for a while. Ugh, hated it. I was like, brother, put the flames back on. We're here for the flames. We don't want this other doings. Please and thank you. All right, now we just got to fool around with this base and get this thing racked up and tied up. No. tangled up in. Finish that lyric. College basketball? I'm not a big college basketball guy or hockey guy per se. But that's just me. Too many people watching TV. Oh. There was a book written about that. Goodness, I cannot remember. There was a book written about it. Some book that was like, or a poem or something. Yeah, like I'm walking down the streets at night, and all I see is like these lights coming on from inside, and the idea is everybody's caught up in their own doings, and they don't know left from right morally, and they're just cogs in the machine being spit out by whatever they consume via the techno doings that we have today. And we're just sitting there doing nothing with our lives but time going by. And honestly, that's how I felt with Alabama. Alabama just gives me a stomach ache, watching them. Because there's no discipline. It's just sad. They've been like that all season. I don't even want to hear Hoosier back here. But, it also made me think that, man, when I make my identity all these different things that I can't really control, that are out of my purview, I need to be careful that my emotions don't dictate my life. And maybe it took Alabama losing to doggone Indiana to figure that out. But you know what? I'll take it. I see losing to Indiana as a win. Glad I caught you. What you working? Oh, dude. Logical's here. What's up? We are working a brownish caramel color Pickwick Point from Churt, found in Georgia. And yeah, having a good time, talking about all sorts of stuff. What you been up to? What you been up to? It is a big piece. I don't know about nice, but you know, maybe you're right. Yeah, I guess it's becoming nicer and nicer as we speak. It's getting there. Getting close. Thank you. It is pretty all right. Still trying to avoid buying a box of rocks with the chart years ago. Oh man, I got you. Didn't know if maybe you might have had another question or two about what we were chatting earlier. I didn't know if I can't remember what we were talking about. Logical. Think about it. But, anyways, we don't have to discuss it. See if I can't get this thing dialed in here. You'll take it. Which one? Box of rocks. I don't think I have anything available at the moment. If that's what you're referring to, I'm happy to answer any question you want, please. That'd be great. I got 2 in the mail. Let me think. You got 3 in the mail, Tommy, from what I remember. Sent them out Monday. If yours wasn't in the Thursday thing. I want to say I sent yours out later, which is tragic, but it is out. You can email me afterward. I took a screenshot of everybody's package info. Yours had... Wait a minute, Tommy A. Let me think. It had 2 or 3, I want to say. I'm remembering right. For logical. Let me try and think of a question. I think that's where we left off. That's right. Where do you at the moment ground your morality? Or in other words, what is the basis for your determination as to that which is right and wrong? Or do you take the approach that some do take, that really when it boils down to it, laws, are in place, but there is no real right or wrong? I didn't know if you had a stance on where your morality is held, or how you hold that which is right and wrong. Particularly in the worldview, if there be no God. I was curious, because I know there's different thoughts and schools of thoughts on it. Let's see. Mottliness to patchy bands. Let's see. All right, we'll see you, Corbin. No worries. Okay, so atheism is a single question to a single answer, but a whole to more relatively. Okay. I kind of know where you're coming from. I would disagree. I say that in the kindest way possible. You see how I did my hands like that? I would disagree. I think that anyone who holds to atheism, or a form of it which denies God, must thereby justify that the way in which they view the world is then true, or cast it up to utter, astronomically comprehensive mystery. And so I believe that, I truly believe, from my point of view, that one who holds that does have a worldview on the world predicated on the fact that there is no God, that therein, everybody has a worldview shaped by the things in which they believe or hold. And if it be shaped by a lack of the presence of deity, then, it would, that would be a worldview in my observation. Let's see. Disagree when I was an atheist, shaped my outlook on everything. That makes it a worldview. I would agree with Hoosier. Let's see. I saw your response. I don't deny God. I simply don't accept any stories. There is no God evidence. All right. Oh, that's a great launching point, actually. I appreciate you asking that. Let's see what McKenna says. Atheism doesn't deny God. Deists believe in God without proof. Atheists merely acknowledge the lack of proof. I would outright deny that claim, McKenna. Not that atheism doesn't deny God, but that deists believe in God without proof or a blind faith. I would logically be able to defend the opposite of that. Atheism acknowledges the lack of proof and therein consistently formulates their beliefs upon the world predicated on the fact, in their opinion, that there is no God, generally speaking. Logic, let's see. I don't deny God. I simply don't accept any story. Let's see. But I don't believe there's no gods. Can you demonstrate one exists? All right. If I was able to demonstrate it, what level of evidence would it take for you to believe? Can anyone prove or disprove God? Okay. Can anyone prove or disprove God? All right. I have many answers to this, but I'll begin by kind of asking the same question. Can you demonstrate that one doesn't exist? That's one of the rebuttals, Chris, but not one I want to start with, because that is a massive one, by the way. That is a astronomical, consideration to try to prove that one doesn't. But one could pose that you can't prove that one is. So my question would then be, what proof would it take? What is it that you specifically are looking for um, to convince you, without a shadow of a doubt, that God exists? All right. I have no idea. All right. That that gives me something to go off of. But if there's a God, that God would know what it takes to demonstrate it to me. So far, that hasn't happened. Not my fault or your problem. Interesting. Would you say that it's your problem that you're alive? To anyone who asks, can I demonstrate a good doesn't exist? Demonstrate a good does exist or doesn't? I'm assuming it says doesn't. To anyone who asks, can I demonstrate that good doesn't exist? No. But just like goblins, fairies, etc., live like there isn't one. The opposite occurs to me is absurd. Okay. Would you say that it's a problem that you're alive? And don't worry, you won't mess me up on my arrowhead. I'm too far in. Too far in making it. I don't think I'll mess up now. Hopefully not. See, I hadn't responded. That's okay. I'll give you time to respond. The question comes from a statement that you made. It says, I have no idea if there's a God, that God would know what it takes to demonstrate it to me, so far that hadn't happened, not my fault or my problem. And my question would come from, okay, so it's not your fault or your problem that he hasn't demonstrated himself in an overly convincing way. And he's already revealed that is not his intent. He wouldn't want robots. He wants people to choose him, and therein is the definition of love. But nonetheless, not my own fault or my own problem. Depending on how you answer the question of, would you say that it's your own fault or your own problem that you're in, or predicament that you're in, a problem that needs to be solved for your own existence or for your own life? I saw you respond. Let's see. But why do we care what the Bible says? Please no, I mean no offense, but imagine it. Quran, I'm guessing you don't think Muhammad split the moon in half. We would deem that the Quran is verifiably uninspired, and those who hold to it, similar to probably what you would say about the Bible, it's just a load of nonsense. There are multiple errors within and apart from the Quran that do not line up with Scripture, albeit they say that they do, and it's verifiably evidence-based, faulty and false. Given the fact that he took someone to marriage at 6 years old is problem enough. Not whatever. But also the errors within, the leaving out of the truth. It's not the whole Quran. So there are different things. But I would still point you back to the question of, do you believe it's a problem that you're alive? Yeah, we would disagree with the Quran, absolutely, as a Christian. Because evidentially and historically, we can prove the faulty nature of it. But that would be another discussion. Let's see. Sorry. Yeah, would you say that it's your problem to handle or deal with that you're alive currently? Or would you disagree with my premise there? Bids at 75. Boy, you better hush now. You better hush. Ain't nobody said we could bid on this Joker. Ain't nobody said we could do it. Okay, maybe you like the... If you believe on... Oh yeah, I'm not really keeping up with the comments. Forgive me, logical. I was trying to interact with you. I'm not really paying attention to most of the other stuff. Um, yeah, I was curious if you it didn't got you. It was just a question. I didn't know if you felt like it was a problem you had that you're currently dealing with, your existence. I would assume that you would say yes, that we all carry the burden of living out or not living out. I think you know what I mean by that. The life to which I would say we have been given, but others may say that we have somehow, some way. If we have to reconcile with that fact of, you know, our being alive and our living, and it be I'm not at fault, it's not my problem. Well, I think it is our problem, the fact that we have been given a life and we have some tangible purpose to try to perceive, if there be any reason for living. And that would go back to nihilism. You're born with no purpose and you create zero purpose. And I think, as you mentioned, you don't give any impressions, me the impression of a nihilist. Um, but maybe could be that you're born with no purpose and therefore you create a certain purpose in an existential worldview. Um, I don't know whether you're an empiricist or not. I don't know if you have any philosophers you follow, or if there's any, um, scholars you look after. As a moral relativist, I would imagine that uh, that would mean that you would hold to no objective morality and only subjective. I might be wrong in that. I'll give you the freedom to correct me. Go to church on a somewhat regular basis, take good notes, and ask a lot of questions. Hey, there you go. I think that's the beautiful thing that we can do on earth is try to ask questions and seek to understand the hard questions of life. And there are many who just submit to a life of pure worthlessness and purposelessness. And if we be but a set of atoms, and I know Hoosier asked earlier, I would agree, can you prove, through the human language at least, an atom exists? Well, we can view it, it's bajillions of that. But do you have and I would agree with the premise though, if we are just a collection of atoms and a subjective state of what's right or wrong is what dominates, then I would have to believe that the dominant view reigns. For instance, if the dominant view is that murder is wrong, thereby murder must be in some way, although there's no ground or basis for it under subjective reasoning, must be wrong. But not only is it baseless objectively, it also follows, if a morality is based upon the collection of the subjective, then the collection of the subjective mind of Hitler in this instance, which is considered an atrocity, destroy the lives of so many of those individuals. Don't need to bring up Israel because that's a controversial topic on its own. But that would justify the collective subjective and be one example of the ramifications of such a belief. But I might be imposing a little too much. I want to allow you an opportunity to share kind of more. Yeah, argument from popularity. That might be different from what you're... But I would say that if a sense of right and wrong is carried not on the basis of something objective, then the subjective dominates, and one could, believe it to be true, or one could believe it not to be true. But for the person who does believe it to be true, um, it would be justified based on the fact that we create our own morality. Uh, uh, but it would depend on, if you hold. Do you believe that there's an objective morality, and if so, where does it lie? Exactly, definitionally, and I believe in objective morality. My question is, do you? And if so, what is the ground by which um, you uphold that view? Uh, let's see. Oh, bad typo. Let's see. Oh, I think. Forgive me. Maybe I can rephrase it. If morality can only stem from the mind, and there's no objective morality, is that what you're getting at there? Maybe, or no? If you say objective is definitionally independent from a mind, um, and there's no morality apart from a mind, then no, you don't believe there's objective morality. My answer to that is that's incredibly, incredibly dangerous. Now you could say and do believe that that's my subjective opinion, and it is. Um, my subjective opinion that is very dangerous. Um, if which I think logically stems from a belief in no God. Um, that one creates a right and wrong. Then, do you believe in right and wrong? Do you believe there's not an objective right and wrong, but if you subjectively believe there's a right and wrong, does that make it right or wrong? Exodus 21:7. I think you mentioned that earlier. I want to say I looked it up. Hoosier and I did. I can't remember what it was. Um, but I'm imagining it would be about slavery, but I don't know exactly what the verse is referencing. But nonetheless, if there be, so if you're, I guess my question is, if you believe that something is right or something is wrong, your understanding is that doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just right or wrong to you. And therefore, in that worldview, anybody who deems anything to be right, murder, rape, incest, stealing, is legitimate, unpunishable, maybe not by the law in your purview, but is okay and justified. Because there's no objective right and wrong, there may be a right and wrong considering the person and how they view a particular thing, but because it's not and burden upon somebody with some kind of objective purview, then, and there is no popular basis to justify or ground anything, then it's okay. And my question would be, would that be fair to say? Let's see. Where in the Christian belief would Jesus spend time with sinners and make a joyful noise because that is his purpose? Yeah, he ministered to sinners. Mm-hmm. Logical says, is that morally permitted? I don't recall the verse. This is my favorite. Yeah, I like that verse too. As a society, we have come to common ground. Okay, so that would be an appeal to the popular, um, as I was mentioning earlier. I would think, unless you have a different take on that. By grounding. We're for a Christian, we understand that we're under the New Testament, but that God was God during the Old Testament and New Testament period, but that the authority lies in Christ Jesus Himself. Hebrews 1:1. To answer the first part, logical, as a society, we've come to common ground. That would be an appeal to, well, they could come to a common ground on, the worst atrocity in the world, Hitler and the Jews. Would that make it right? And if you say yes, then that would appeal to something greater. You may say that's your subjective, which makes it right, but ultimately that's your subjective, and the things happen, and really nothing is. Anything can happen, chaos can happen, nothing really matters at the end of the day. What would be the logical extent I would take? What do you mean by grounding? So, the idea of grounding, I'm trying to remember back to the context of what I was saying, but if you have no objective standard, plumb line, or bouncing off point, or foundation, the world is reckless, prone to chaos and destruction, because whatever somebody thinks they'll do and it's right to them, therefore lawlessness and chaos ensues. So if there be no foundation or grounding, and the subjective rules, that's what happens. And it's right, because every person is right. Is Jesus God? Yes. Is God. Jesus is God. I still believe, before we even get to that the burden would fall upon the one who seems to make that, if somebody murders somebody, you may deem it as wrong, but that doesn't make it wrong. It is what it is. We're all atoms. Nothing is nothing. Anything is justified. And that's a difficult view to hold. In order to be identical to something, do you need to have all of its attributes? Well, that's a very broad, wide sweeping question. In what sense do you mean? If you're talking about Jesus, that's the beauty of the gospel, is that He took on flesh. He became man. He became likened unto us, yet with no sin. a man well documented historically, who was seen doing incredible miracles, speaking in such an authoritative way. Well, I mean, that's a good question. That goes back to the transubstantiation argument of the Catholics, and why part of the reason why Catholic or certain Protestants denied it. Luther took a different view of something called accidents. You know, you have a duck. It looks like a duck. It quacks like a duck. It must be a duck. Does that mean in every case is that it is? Well, no. It could be a decoy. So I think we have to. You know, it could be a decoy with real fat. I mean, it could show up. You know, but that wouldn't make it. So I don't know the point you're getting at. It seems. Let's see. America. Oh, so you'd like. So would that prove God's existence? Logical. Would that prove God's existence? A miracle? Well, or in other words, would that be enough? Well, so logical. So you're talking about framing hammers and such. Well, God, by His very nature, is not physically. He's a spirit. He's not physical. He's a spirit. He's not finite. He's infinite. So I wouldn't say that your premise is true by any regards. But I still wouldn't understand the premise there. The Bible says He is the image of the invisible God, but that doesn't make Him a decoy. I still don't see the rationality behind, the justification behind moral relativism. I don't see how you can then say, anything is wrong apart from your own standing. I mean, you could think it's wrong, but that doesn't make anything wrong. And it's predicated on the fact of just an absolute. Well, let me not straw man anything. The belief that we're just know nothing, nobodies, purposeless. Maybe we create a little bit of purpose, but not really, because in the grand scheme of things, historically, we're one little grain of sand, and one little grain of sand at a time, and nothing really matters. Preserving the earth doesn't really matter. Preserving human life, nothing matters. There's zero purpose. You can make an emotional plea of, emotionally I see the pain that caused, but what causes pain to be wrong? And in your view, there would be nothing wrong with pain. And you talk about something from Exodus. I don't know what the view is, but why would that even be wrong? You may think it's wrong. I may think it's right. So what? At the end of the day, I would wager that it wouldn't matter under that purview, and that the worst atrocities of mankind could just happen. I could think them wrong, so what? There's no purpose. I mean, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. We talk about Jesus, but let's see. Identical to God, you must hold all of his attributes. Well, it depends on what you mean by identical. Like I don't like you talking about a mirror image. You know, I'm identical to what's in the mirror, but I'm completely different. Must hold all of his attributes. They're two different DNAs. You know, you have the same DNA, two twins. They're different. Identical twins, but it depends on identical. Let's see. You are better than your mom. What did it say? My cat will eventually break down these. Let me try to read that. Your car. Let me see. I'm better than my Bible. Well, that under your view, it wouldn't matter. Let's see. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at you. It was more the proposition. By the way, I didn't say any of that. My cat will eventually, my car will eventually break down and never run again. Should I throw it away now? I don't see where that's going, but if your car breaks down, you can fix it, you could sell it, you could give it a new paint job. There are a lot of different things. You could take it and make a new car with it, some of the parts from it. Maybe I'm not understanding the premise. I'm sorry. The deaths. So you're talking about, how can God be just in doing such a thing? It's because he's perfect. His very nature is perfect. And in creating a world, he desires perfection. And from the very beginning, mankind fell short of that perfection. And if God is love, yes, but God by his very nature is also just. And if he be just, then wrongdoing must be punished. If somebody committed a murder and killed, 100 people, and they be brought before a judge, and the judge says, "Oh, I love you, you're free," would that be just? Would God or that judge be doing what is just? What is right? The answer is no, but under your worldview, it wouldn't matter anyways, whether he believed it right or whether he believed it wrong, because it is what it is. So there's a double whammy on that one, I think, from my point of view. But I'll definitely hear you out, see where you're at. This is coming out to be a pretty nice point, I must say. And I appreciate the discussions. This has been nice. And hopefully cordial. I mean, it's only me talking, so I know I have a monopoly. Let's see. Is that the language? Oh, I must have missed something. Looks good, buddy. Oh, that's all right, Lithics. That's all right. Let's see. Siri missed that. I got you. I am, yeah. I'm like, I don't believe in free will. Oh my God. You also have to take in consideration that Pharaoh hardened his own heart before God hardened him. And hardening historically comes from, like pottery, believe it or not. You talk about Indians and artifacts and stuff. You take a pot and you make it out of mud, right? And then, you get the shape right. And it's, in the shape, it takes time to dry, right? Well, it's already getting that way. This is just, amplifying the time, the hardening process. It's not a changing or thwarting of one's own desire, but you're going to do this anyways. And therefore, the stirring up of Moses coming time and time again, he's getting frustrated, and God, by that, is allowing for Pharaoh to become more hardened. He wouldn't be at fault because he's creating people who chose themselves to do such. All cordial, yeah. Oh, dude, you've been very kind too. You've been very kind too. Harden. Yeah, if God didn't exist, he'd harden his own. Well, this one came out pretty sporty, guys. Pretty sporty. You're talking about the firstborn children. Firstborn children. I think that also is taken through I say this in kindness, not through a biblical lens where, unless you hold an original sin, which, even those who hold an original sin, again, that's a new. I don't hold that at all. That those children are innocent. If they knew not right from wrong and had not the knowledge of sin, therefore they're not capable of the consequences of sin. So there's that. But yeah, I'm sure you would push back further on that and say, did the children deserve death? And if they were, I mean, the question would still then fall back on you of why would that even be wrong? I mean, you're saying it under that worldview, whether it be God or whether it be Pharaoh, whether it be anybody. I mean, you're saying it as if it's an atrocity and that everybody should believe it's an atrocity. But does that make it an atrocity under your view? I would say no. For me, there's multiple reasons for why. Number one, whole different time, whole different culture, to a whole different people. They clearly violated God's commands, the people of Egypt. They were an oppressive people, and God is just, and therefore did what is just. Hey, you put blood on the lintels of your doorpost. They didn't do it. They just did not do it. But again, I mean, we're talking about what's right and wrong. If you're trying to say that it's right or that it's wrong, it's like, well, it's not objectively under your view. So I still wouldn't. I have plenty of justifications for it. But I, you know. All right, I'm gonna end it there. That's a nice pickwick. I'm gonna take some time to think about this one because this is a doggone stud muffin. But anyway, hey, certainly appreciate the back and forth. There might be one thing I can pick off here. Let me look at it here. I would agree with that framing, no context that makes slang in. Since for the no context that makes slang innocence for the by the way the blood that what was it there for was God not sure who his chosen were. Now see that's very interesting because the Mosaic law hadn't even been established yet at that point, and certainly the New Testament covenant had not been set in place yet. The law of grace, the law of faith, the law of the spirit of life. It's described in a couple ways. And that would still be under, what you would call, the patriarchal age. And God, people longed for God, for his presence. Where are you? And God made it so that he could be among his people, but you had to jump through a lot of hoops, a lot of blood was shed, and ultimately man saw the need for a savior and a Messiah, and he came. He came. And but this was before the law was given, and so you have God enacting his justice upon a world where people committed sin, and the real question is anybody's sin less? And if the answer is no, then God is just in doing what he does. And if by some reason you would disagree, I would say that under your understanding, it that doesn't discount the fact that maybe one other person disagrees, or a million people disagree, or all Christianity disagrees. Let's see, do you believe in the divine command theory? Depends on if it's viewed through a Calvinistic lens, or a Catholic lens, or Protestant lens, or a biblical lens. All right, guys. Hey, y'all are bidding on this thing. I just told you guys that I'm gonna keep it for a day. I'm gonna look at it. Okay, I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna see if it's one I want to hold on to. Okay, give me a break. Come on, guys. Give me a break. Let me be. Fair enough. All right. It's good work. Oh, thank you, man. Oh, man, what a question. We got to end it on Kevin's question. Man, what a question. Everybody go look at what Kevin wrote. Everybody look at it. Everybody look at it. Everybody read it. Everybody read it. Kevin said, if God is always just, if he's always just, how can he also be merciful? Oh, man. How is there a satisfaction for the justice of God? How can it be other than the sacrifice of his own son to atone for the sins of the world. That is the divine answer to the problem that mankind put themselves in, is Jesus. Man, you guys are bidden out of absolute vanity. Absolute vanity. Absolute vanity. I tell you, yeah, great question. As mercy is a suspension of, not necessarily a suspension of justice. And when you say, or in other words, I would disagree with that. And to say that he is, let me see, Hoosier kind of beat me to it. Looks like. Let's see above. What did Polybius say? If you'll meet or beat that, I'll stop now. If you'll meet or beat that. Sorry, I read that so off. Yeah. Oh goodness, y'all are crazy. No, I do think I want to hold on to it for a minute or two. Maybe I'll offer it in another day or so. But I want a night to think it over, I want a night to think it over. And I won't hold you to your offers either. So it's not like oh, well, you said yesterday that. No, I'll give it some thought. Ooh, I was able to pick that off. Sweet. Mercy, compassionate treatment, especially those under one's power, clemency and disposition to the kind of forgive. See something wish to be thankful. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and something to add as well is that God's mercy isn't going to align necessarily with what we always think mercy to be. In other words, mercy isn't God allowing you to do something immoral or whatever. Our view of mercy isn't always going to align, or we may look at what God said, that isn't mercy, but maybe it is. But of course, mercy would have to be defined, and I think that was a good definition. And is mercy, what does mercy look like? How has mercy been demonstrated by God? And is God prone to show mercy, in what way? Every single person who is dealing with a health issue, gone. Is that a demonstration of his mercy? Or is his mercy to allow us to go through certain trials to bolster our faith? Our understanding is finite. It's so limited in that sense. See, if the wages of sin is death, and we're all sinners, he must suspend justice to let us into heaven. That is a great question, although the latter half is false. It wouldn't be classified as a suspension, as all right, you got justice. Oh, no justice. All right, justice. No, it's not a suspension of it where you have a straight line and there's a blip in the line there. But rather, it is an upholding of God's standard. If all are sinners and the wages of sin is death, or in other words, what you have accrued for yourself, predicated on what you've done against an eternal God, is death, then God would be just in doing that which he does, which answers the question of all the Exodus stuff, However, God sent his son to appease his own wrath, righteous wrath, to appease it, not by a suspension of justice, which, by the way, there would be no justice under your system, I would assume. Forgive me, I said that in a really condescending way. I didn't mean for it to come off that way. It's not a suspension, but an upholding, because it was fulfilled. The payment was fulfilled in the death of Jesus Christ, because he defeated all odds. He lived a life perfectly, committed no sin, engaged with no temptation, or upon temptation that came his way. And he died, but ultimately we then have to ask the question, if the wages of sin is death, it's spiritual, physical. But ultimately the idea is that through his shed blood, through his dying and conquering the grave, we then can conquer the grave too. We, in our deadness, as we appeal to the blood of Christ, are not able to save ourselves, but we, through the sacrifice of Christ and his blood upon the altar, so to speak, of the cross, in which he bore our sins on the cross, 1 Peter, in his body on the tree, therein the payment for the punishment accrued was satisfied completely in the offering of the God-man Jesus Christ. Let's see. Ask Job. I don't understand. I'm sorry. Held based on what I believe or do not believe, which I can't choose. If you disagree, just choose to believe I'm right. I couldn't do that because I do believe in objective morality. You viewing me could maybe form that postulate that if you disagree with me, you could choose to believe that I'm right according to my own standard. But standard, grounding, however you want to phrase that. But I wouldn't be able to say that concerning you, because I do believe there's an objective, right and wrong. I go to hell based on what I... Well, it's not what you believe necessarily, it's what you've done. What the whole world has done. And so it's not predicated on... You aren't... The wages of your... the wages isn't death because of what you've believed, but it's because... It may be because what you believe is sin, but depending on the situation. But it's because of your sin. I would see a category area there. You don't choose what you believe. I don't understand. Or in other words, you're saying you believe, therefore there is no choice because you already believe it. That would imply an instinctive, innate, inherited morality of some kind, though, I would think. Let's see. Yep. Yes, I'm not convinced by the story. Where's the choice? Do you think I'm going to fake out all the knowing God? You're convinced. I didn't know if you're applying to me or not. I'm sorry. Where's the choice? I didn't know. I didn't think you believed in free will. I might be wrong though, logical. Let's see. Why am I held to the sin of a man thousands of years dead? You aren't. Romans 5 says that because all have sinned, it makes the clarification. So that the sin of Adam, in the sin of Adam, sin entered into the world, and sin now dominated the landscape because all men sin, Romans 5. And so we're held accountable for our own sin. That sin likely mimics the sin of Adam, though. But again, I mean, why would it be right or wrong under your purview? I would still, in my trying to help you, would still try to go back to first the moral argument of, if nothing matters, you may think it's right, it doesn't make it right, and the world can do whatever it wants to, utter lawlessness. Going to hell. Well, going to hell is a ramification of the understanding of God. Say you're going to, well, you say you're going to, but I mean you could change that. I mean that's the whole idea, is that all mankind, not just you, the whole world, logical. What about, I don't know. The whole world is accountable for what they have done. Mike Mason, do you get sent to hell for one thing over many great deeds? Absolutely. Absolutely. Whether it be one thing, two things, three things, four things. Dr. Seuss book. Yes. And it's just because what you did was against not just a person or against a ladybug, it was against the God of the universe. But again, we would then have to get back to, is there a God? So we're jumping way far ahead here. Did anything but be a person. You're convinced that he did. So you would say that Jesus was a person. All right. Well, that's a good starting point. But before we even get to Jesus, we would have to establish that there's a God. So we're talking about things like way down the line here, that Christianity has defended for 2,000 years. The powerful Lord of the universe is sending me. What am I going to do about it? Fall at the feet of the cross and say, Lord, I'm unworthy. Lord, I am nothing in this cog of a universe. But ultimately recognize first that there's a God. Secondly, see that he fits the God of the Bible, that there is only one God and that he is the God of the Bible. That can be proven. You say, how? By faith? Well, scientifically it can be proven, the things that are stated. Historically, it can be proven. And prophetically, which is the most magnificent in my observation, it can be proven. So it's not a baseless faith whatsoever. And then we recognize what sin is, where morality comes from, and then where sin is, or what sin is. And then the logical question is, well, what do we do? And that's the perfect question, because that's what they asked in Acts chapter 2 when they crucified their Messiah, their only hope. And Peter responded with, repent and be baptized, every one of you. So not just you, or maybe you in the back, but every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ, for the remission of sins, the forgiveness of all the sins that you've committed and will commit if you're made faithful, of course. And you'll receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. And that's the beautiful truth. The good news of the gospel message is that because of what we have done against a holy, holy God, or a holy, holy, holy God, I put two holies in there, but that ultimately it's His mercy through the blood of His Son to whom He sent that we have salvation. Anyways, I'm going to have to go. This has been an awesome little discussion. Pickwick, I'm going to hold on to it for a minute. But thank you guys. Poor Marshall, he's just sitting here in the cold. And I'm going to head on out. So y'all have been awesome. Thanks for those who donated. That's been very kind. Those will not go unnoticed. And I need to get some rest because it is so late. So late. But been great conversation. Maybe Logical, you'll be back on here and we can chat a little further. I'd love to know a little bit more about kind of where you're at, and I think that would be good. Fairness, the principle, moral, and decency, conform to morals. Peace. All right, yeah. Peace, guys. Thanks. We will catch you later. I think he found something. Or maybe he didn't. All the convo. Oh, well. Takes a humble person to say that, Logical. That's very admirable. Very admirable. And we'll pick this up later. Thanks, guys. Take care.